everybody, it's Miss Diane again, and if you're watching this video, it means it's the second day where I'm on the road trying to get back home, and I can't find a hotspot or I can't find Wi-Fi, so I pre-recorded this little lesson for you, which goes with the lesson that you watched before this one. Let's review the last lesson that we did, which was on lettering. So we were talking about letters. And in this particular one, hold on while it focuses. There we go. Sorry about that. So here we are. So we were talking about letters last time, and we were talking about block letters, and we specifically knew how to build blocks because we've been using blocks all this time while we've been drawing our geometric solids. We've been drawing blocks and cylinders and spheres, and these, of course, are just a bunch of blocks all stuck together. Now we're looking at them from a slightly different angle than we have in the past. We're looking directly at the face of the block, and we get a little bit of peek of the side, one side of these blocks. And we decided, because we are the artist, that we would see these blocks at an angle going up to the northwest. Remember, you can think of your paper like a compass. North, south, east, west, and this would be northwest. And we decided that these lines would come up to the northwest. Now, because we're the artist, we could choose a different direction next time. Maybe next time we want to make it come to the southwest. It's up to us because we're the artist, we get to choose. So on these particular letters, we stuck mostly with ones that are shaped like blocks to make it simple. We got to the curvy letters later. We drew them out. We added our diagonal lines, connected these all up to make the sides of them, made the sides dark, and we used our dirty finger from blending to tone at the front of the letter. So we have dark and medium against a light background. Right? And then for fun, we added shadows coming right off the back of the letter. So it looks like our letters are big and heavy and sitting on the ground, right? I can make this shadow here a little bit darker. And we probably practiced making our shadow shaped like the letter that we were doing. And of course, the letter E shadow we don't see much of. So that was our first project that we did yesterday. Then we talked about other things we can do with letters. This first one was just block letters, but we also added something called a serif. And a serif is just that fancy thing that goes on the end of each letter stroke. So we added serifs to their plain block letters, and you get a really different font. Look how different these look from each other, right? They're basically the same. They're both block letters, but in this case, we have serifs. We also talked about toothpick letters, right, which are super skinny. And on toothpick letters, you can also add serifs. In this one, we added triangle serifs. In this example here, we added circle serifs. So you can put any kind of serif you want. It could be puppies. It could be rainbows. It could be anything you want it to be. And then the last one here, we combined block letters and toothpick letters. And we decided that anything that was up and down, that means the verticals, those would all be blocks. And anything that was horizontal, that means side to side, would be toothpick. So you can mix up toothpick and block to get different types of fonts that you can design. And we talked about being a font designer. You, of course, were born with your very own font, your handwriting, but you can also do other kinds of fonts now that you know how to make letters, right? We also talked about if we did the same, this font and this font are almost the same, except instead of this being solid, and this time here we made it diagonals, right? We just put diagonals in there instead, and it's still the same letters, but it's just a little bit fancier looking. And then the last thing we did in class is practice doing a whole alphabet of block letters, just so we know how, right? And we build them the Frankenstein way. That means one block at a time. And you have the choice of either erasing the Frankenstein line so we can't see where the letters have been stuck together, or you can leave them there. Either one is fine. In this one here, we even went and did another kind of decoration in our horizontal, or in our verticals. Here's a new font we just designed right there. What should we call that? I think we will call that marquee because it looks like the lights to me. And when you go to the movies and there's a light sign out in front of the movie theater with those lights on, those chaser lights, this one looks like that. So I would call that marquee. And we practiced all the way through the end of the alphabet when we ran out of time. Now today I want to talk to you about fonts again just a little bit more before we get on to graphic design. So the first thing I want to talk to you about fonts is, in this particular example, we have big blocky letters, right? And they've got space in between them. They've got space in between them. But what if we decided we want our letters to overlap? You can totally do that. And what if we wanted our letters to not be boxes anymore, made out of blocks. We could go ahead and also make them out of balloons. So let's make a new kind of font. We're going to design a new font called Balloon. Here we go. And instead our letters are going to be fat and puffy. Of course we need our kindergarten lines to help us. All right, can you barely see those lines there, right? I'm gonna make this bottom line, my base line is gonna be a little darker, just so you can see what we're up to. All right, and our new font is gonna be called Balloon. So instead of making them out of blocks, we're gonna instead make them big, fat, bubbly letters. So let's see, Balloon, let's see. Well, first I need the backbone of my letter, no matter what. But instead of making it shaped like a block, I'm gonna make it round. And here's the big, fat blurbs of my balloon. There, I'm going to make just a tiny little hole right here. There's the B. And the letter A, I want to make it a little bit behind. The other letter. B-A. That makes the letter L. And again, I want to make sure it stays pretty fat and round. And this letter L is going to be behind this other letter L. So you guys finish this off with me. No, this one's too skinny. Hold on, it's got to be fatter. There we go. Yeah, you can change it, right? If it's not fat enough, you can always go back and make it fatter. You want these really puffy letters. Here comes the letter O. I want this behind everybody. And just a little hole in the middle. Balloon. 2 O's for balloon. And then the N is always a little bit tricky, so I do what I always do, which is put in the goalposts first, right? There's the goalposts of my letter N. All right? Those are the 2 side parts of my N. I'm going to make this part come down. And that part go up. There we go. It would be fun to add a little bit of shading on here too, because I know how. That might make my balloons look even fatter and rounder, right? So I'm going to put some shading on this side of my letters. I'll blend that in a minute. I'm not going to see much shading here though, because there's some blocking going on here. There's some overlap, right? And I could have made that N a little bit further behind the other one, couldn't I? You can make a font called Cloud, all right? Well, there's my letters, spelling out the word balloon. And I could spend more time on my shading too. I probably want some shading on the bottom too of each of these letters. Just a little bit of shading. Oops, I got the bottom of that L. A little shading on this side of the holes of the O. Here too. Rub, rub, rub. Those look pretty 3D. I'm pretty happy with that. There's my balloon font. And then I go back with my eraser and clean up my smudges. Maybe I get rid of my baseline here if I can, so people don't know that I needed a baseline to make my lines perfectly straight, right? You want people to think you're a genius. You don't need any baselines. Do some more blending. And get rid of my top line. So fonts could be whatever you want them to be. You can make a font called Stars and Stripes. You can make a font called Mexican Flag. You can make a font called, you know, I don't know. There's a million of these. You could make a font called Halloween. You can make a font called Horror Movie. You can make a font called Windy Day. All right. So there's an example of, kooky fonts that you can invent based on words that are describing words or based on an idea that you have. Now I want to talk to you today about graphic design. So graphic design is everywhere you look. A box of cereal, somebody had to make that design. Someone had to decide what kind of letters they were going to use to spell out Cheerios. They had to decide what color it was going to be, a yellow box with blue letters. They had to decide, what the bowl of cereal was going to look like. Was it going to have milk next to it or just in the bowl? Would there be a spoon? Is there a hand holding that spoon? Whose hand is it? A kid or a grown-up? What color is the skin going to be on that hand? So many decisions that you have to make. And where is the company name going to go? Because Cheerios are made by General Mills. So all of these package decisions are made by the person called a graphic designer, and they're the one who chooses what a project is, what any printed thing or anything on the internet is going to look like. Graphic design is a huge line of work, and if you like doing this sort of thing, man, there's plenty of jobs out there to be a graphic designer when you grow up. So let's talk about graphic design just now. We're going to make a postcard. New piece of paper. We're going to talk about a postcard today. We're going to make a postcard about voting. We're going to make a postcard about voting. Now, we don't want to tell people how to vote, but we want to make sure they do vote. So that's the difference. So we don't want to tell them how to vote. We want to make sure that they do vote. So we have to make a postcard that encourages them in a friendly and encouraging way, right? So we want to make sure they're like, yes, I will go vote. So let's think about for a minute. What are the words we would want to use that will obviously vote, right? And what are the words we want to tell them? How important it is to vote, like maybe your vote matters. And what else? You might want to vote from home. If you got a mail-in ballot, right? You can vote from home and then mail it in. What are the things we want to say? Your vote is your voice, right? It's your chance to speak up in your government. This is your time. Once every 2 years, you get to put in your vote and say, I want it to be this way, not that way. So your vote is your voice. I'm trying to think of other things we might want. Your vote matters. I kind of like this one. Your vote matters. I like your vote matters. Now you want to think about how you want to lay out your words. All right, well, if we're going to do this one, your vote matters, we could probably, here's my postcard plan. This is my plan, right? Let's see. I could do your vote matters. But I probably want to center these, right, to make sure that your is exactly in the middle, because right now the your is off to one side, so I'd want to center that up. But I'm looking at this one too, though, right here. I see this. Do you see this? Vote and voice. They both have an E on the end, so I can make a kind of a crossword puzzle out of them. I can also do it this way. That would have to be a tall, skinny postcard, right? That would have to be a tall, skinny postcard. This would be a wide postcard, I think. Yeah, so there's many different choices. Let's work on this one just for now because I want to show you about lettering and centering. So we're going to do your vote matters. That's all the words we're going to say on our postcard. It's simple. And then when you flip the postcard over, it will have more information about how to vote. But this is going to be one side of our postcard. And we're going to mail these off to everybody we know to make sure that everybody remembers that voting day is coming and it's very important. So here's our brand new piece of paper. Here's our plan. We know we have 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. So we need 3 sets of kindergarten lines just to help us line it up. Let's do the middle one first. Let's do the middle one first. So I'm going to do yep, that's where my middle one's going to go. So that is the middle line of my middle line. And there's the top and there's the bottom. So that's where the word vote is going to go, right? Because that's going to go right in the middle. So I'm going to write vote in there. And then I need 2 other lines. I need your and matters. So let's make the kindergarten lines for that too. This is going to take a little while here. Hold on while we do this. We did this same idea last video class, so you've done this before. Right? You need a baseline, a top line, and you need this middle line to help you line up your letters. Right? Middle line. And then we need our top line up here too. I'm going to turn my paper upside down, make it easy. And roughly they're the same size. We could measure these if we wanted to, but I'm just going to wing it. They should be roughly the same size. I'm going to wait a minute while you catch up. And this is going to say, your vote matters. All right, we're going to need to find the middle here too, so I have to figure out about here is the middle. That looks middle to me. I'm going to make a little dotted line right here so I know where the middle of my paper is. So graphic designers start with guidelines to make sure they line everything up before they start, to make sure everything is in the right place where it needs to be. So here we go. Now we're going to write the word your is the first one we're going to write, and we're going to sketch it out super light right up here. And we know that the word your has 4 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right in the middle, it's here. This is exactly, so the U and the R are going to be on one side of the middle, and the O and the Y are going to be on the other. So we're going to start with these two letters, the O and the U. We're going to put those in first. Let's put the O in right here. Make a big round O. You have all this space. And you decide how fat you want your letters to be today. Here's my O. And here's my middle line. That means my U is going to go over here. There's my goalposts. And then a round letter O at the bottom. So we've got an O and a U, because we're spelling our word from the middle out. So we got the O and the U in there first. Now we're going to stick in the letter R. It's going to go right here. Put in the backbone first. And we're going to put on the letter P part of it. And I made this the Frankenstein way, right? So I can go back and erase these parts if I want people to think I didn't need to do it that way, right? Or you can leave them in there. And then we're going to put our letter Y in over here. So let's see. Let's put the tops of the Y in first. Right? That makes it easy to see what you're doing. Maybe these are a little close together. Let's move it over a little bit. There we go. Need a little more space here. There we are. So we're going to start with this part of the letter Y. So basically I have a floating V, right? Make it come down as far as it needs to. And then put on your tree trunk. That was a little messy, but that's okay because I have an eraser. All right. I can go back and make these a little darker now that I'm happy with them. You want to do this lightly at first in case you want to move a letter later. You don't have to worry about you're pushing down too hard and being unable to erase it all the way. There we go. All right, moving on. I think the U and the R are a little too close together, so if I was doing this for my customers, for example, I'd probably erase that R and move it over a little bit, right? But this is my first sketch, so that's okay. All right, we just did your Now we're going to do vote. Same thing happens right here. Here's the break. We need the O and the T in there first. The O and the T. So here comes another O. We've done this before. This should go easy. O. And a T. I'm going to do it the Frankenstein way. Stick my parts together. And put a letter E over here. And my letter V. I'm going to mark the tops of my V first, so I know where they're going to go. And it's going to go roughly down to there. There's the bottom. So when I did my letter V, I marked the top of the V and the bottom of the V, and that'll help me to make sure everything goes the right way. And it's kind of too fat at the bottom there. All right, so we've got our first two words. And we were set, and look how centered it is, right? They're exactly in the middle because we started from the middle and moved our way out. I mean, this little trick could come in handy if someone says, here's a sketchbook, put your name on the cover. Well, you could just write your name on the cover starting in the corner, but it would be way more fun to center it right in the middle of your sketchbook. So you have to count how many letters are in your name and figure out how you can divide it right in the middle. All right, let's look at the word matters. M-A-T-T-E-R-S. Wow, how many letters is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, let's look at this more closely. M-A-T-T-E-R-S. There's 7 letters here. So which letter is the one in the middle? We can count our way in. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be the letter T. The letter T is right in the middle. The letter T is right in the middle of this word. So guess where the letter T is going to go? Right here. Right here. So our letter T is going to go right in the center. And then I'm going to spell my way out way. I'm going to put TERS in first. T-E-R-S going this way. Right? So here I go with the T-E-R-S part. I need an E-R-S. E. I better keep these letters kind of skinny. I'm going to run out of space. R. Yeah, I should have planned better, right? It's going to be a little crowded. Next time I'll know. And then I'm putting my letter S. Do you remember letter S's? Yeah. Do you remember this trick from yesterday? Or the other time you watched this video, right? The video about lettering. We talked about how to make a letter S, and the easiest way to do it is to start with the top and the bottom of like a letter O. So here's our letter O, right? We've got the top and the bottom. Same thing for our letter S, top and bottom first. And once you've got these in here, the rest is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to move it over so we're right in the center and you can see. Now, when we're thinking about it in our imagination, the letter S, we write it like this. So this is the beginning of our letter S. Let's cut that right off there. There's the beginning of our letter S. Here's the end of our letter S. And once you've got those parts in, then it's easier to do the rest. I know this is going to come up like this, big, and it's going to get pretty small while it goes up to there. That's better. And this is really big. And it gets smaller. Do my letter T. You know, I'm going to let these two T's come together. Save me some space. Right? I can let them touch. They can be paired T's. And that's running out of space. I got to fit 2 letters in here, right? 2 letters are going to have to fit. Put my letter A in here. I'm going to mark the top of my A and the bottom of my A. That helps me to know where I'm going. So I've marked the top. That's the head of my letter, and here are the 2 feet of my letter right on my baseline. Once I've got those in there, that helps me to draw the rest of the lines for the letter A. And the last thing is the letter M. Put in your goalposts first. It looks like hatters. All right, let's add the M part. Here we go. So in this one, the goalposts go in first. I like to chop that off. Go back here and erase my Frankenstein lines. So here's my postcard design. Now this is my first draft of this postcard, right? This is the first time I drew it out, right? I drew it out, see how it works, right? This is my first draft. So when you are writing a story or an essay for school or a report or something, you write it the first time and then you look at it again and make a whole bunch of changes and you rewrite it. Well, the same thing happens in graphic design. You make your first pass at it. So this is my rough idea. And what I learned from this is I need to make my letters a little bit smaller, right? And I had a little too much room up here at the top. So the next time I do this one, that might be the one I would hand to my customer and say, here you go. Here's my finished one, because you made the first one first, learned from how it went, figured out ways to make it work better, and then you're ready to go. All right, so these ones here, I can go ahead and erase my guidelines, right? I also can do what we did last time, which was here up in the northwest, right? I can go ahead and make my lines going northwest, or I could make them going southwest today, or northeast, right? Let's make them go to the northeast for today. All these diagonal lines will go this way. Let's do the easy letters first, right? And that helps those letters stand out too, for sure. Here, let's do the letter T. That's an easy one. Remember, northeast is our corner of choice today. You pick the corner you like best. Today is northeast. To do the easy letters first. We'll come back and do the hard letters later. Let's do these 2 T's. So you can see the ones that have got the extra shading on them look really good when you can see the sides of the letters. It makes them very bold and stands out, right? Now let's talk about that letter O. Let's leave all the other letters for now. We could finish this at our leisure, right? But I want to talk to you about the letter O. If the lines are all going this way, up to the northeast, like we talked about in this example, it's really tricky to do that on a letter O. So you kind of have to figure out, I like to make a whole bunch of them until you can't make them anymore, and that's when you know you have to stop, right? I can't make any more because I don't want to go out here into space. So here is where that's going to go. Keep making your northeast lines until you can't make them anymore. And that will show you where it goes on the letter O. And it will curve around just like the rest of the curvy letter. This is too far. Let's do it on the inside too. I can make lines going to the northeast until I can't make them anymore, and that's when I know I've got them. And it's shaped like that on the inside of a O. Let's do this O too. Make all those lines going to the northeast, little short ones until you can't make any more because there's nowhere to put them. That's it. Same thing here. That's all we got. We'll do the inside of the O too. All the lines going to the northeast because that's what we decided. Next time you can pick a different one if you want, but for today that's what we chose, so that's what we're doing. Now, having just done the O, you could probably figure out how to do the letter R. This one's going to be easy, right? This one's going to be easy. This one's going to be easy. But this is where it gets tricky. That's how we get on there. And the more you practice at this, the better you get, right? The more you practice, you can get them. Now, no matter where you are, stop for just a second. We're all going to do that letter S together. Ooh, that's the trickiest one. We're going to use the tricks that we learned from doing the O, though, the same way. So remember, northeast was our choice. All the lines are going to go up to the northeast, off this away. So we're just going to start the same way. Make these little lines coming off the edge of your letter S till you can't make them anymore. Oh, stop right there. That's the top part of the letter S. Let's do the bottom of the letter S. Remember, we're always going up to the northeast, just like we said. So you can't make any more, ran out. That's when you connect this up and make that nice and smooth. Same thing here. Oh, can't do any more. And there's your block shading on your letter S. And the other letters we can do too, right? Alright, even if you're not all done, we're going to come to a stopping place on this for now. We can finish this up at any point. But we're going to stop right now because I want to show you a couple more things about block letters before we stop for today. Okay, so I have two more block letter tricks to show you. Here we go. We're going to do the word the 2 more times just because it's easy because they're nice square letters. But I want to show you 2 more tricks about block letters. Here we go. Fresh piece of paper. Make yourself some kindergarten lines. Baseline, midline, top line. Since you know what you're doing, we're going to make a big, bold letter, the, T-H-E, just like we've done before, because those are nice, easy letters. It's a nice short word. Nobody ever celebrates that word, so we're going to. Here comes our letter H. Remember, it's just a bunch of blocks all stuck together. Do this one super light, and you'll see why in a minute. It's pretty cool when it works out. All right, there's our H. Leave some space. There's my letter E. I'm going to put the backbone in first so it doesn't fall over. Then I'm going to add the legs. And the big letter T. I'm going to make the top part first to make sure my spacing is good. I do this one light, like I said, and you'll see why in just 1 second. There. Oops, that's too skinny. Oh, that's better. So you want to make sure that this kind of the same thickness. Okay? All right, once you've got the letter the in there, I'll give you a second to catch up. I mean the word the. You're ready to begin. I'm going to go ahead and take up my Frankenstein lines. I don't need them. In this particular example. Okay, we're developing a new font. This font is called Shadow. This font is called Shadow. And here we go. So let's choose Northeast again, just for fun. We're going to choose Northeast as the direction for our sides of our block. So we're going to make nice, long, strong diagonal lines going up to the Northeast today. Just for this example, and you'll see why when we get further. I think I've got them all. I got them all, and then I'm going to connect these up like I did last time. Make these some pretty strong. And some pretty strong shadows. I mean, sides. I know it's confusing because they refer to this as drop shadow, and it's not really a drop shadow at all. Actually, in a minute, I'll show you a real drop shadow. We'll do a real one in a second. Make these nice and sharp. Make sure you know where those the sides stop, right? You want to make this nice and crispy. Like I want to make sure that the corner is nice and crisp. Outline this nice and sharp and dark. Bold shading on the sides. Bold. Double check that you've got all the sides showing, right? On the letter 2, we've got a little one and a big one and a long one. Letter H, we've got 2 little ones, the medium-sized one here on the horizontals, right? And then we've got 2 verticals. This one's all one piece, and this one's broken into 2. And the letter E, we've got a long vertical, long horizontal, and then these ones are only seeing part of it, right? Because of overlapping. Now, once you've gotten here, we're going to take out our eraser. We're going to, of course, erase our guidelines, right? So people think we are a genius. And we're also going to erase the letters. We're going to erase the letters. So all we're going to be able to see is the shade, is the sides only. And that's enough information for your eyes to know what these letters are. There you go. I love this trick. It's one of my favorites. Oops, this got to go too. All right. All the lines should be gone. The only thing that's left, the only thing it left are the sides of those letters. That's all you can see. And you go back and make them nice and sharp. Clean up all your smudges. Make sure your lines are nice and crispy and straight as you can make them. There we go. All right. I have two more little tricks to show you today. Two more tricks. Let's make some kindergarten lines again. And make these pretty big so you have room to play. We're going to write the word "the" one more time. We've done this a bunch, so you should be pretty fast at it by now. I like to put the top part of my letter T in first. So I got my spacing right here, and then I'm going to put in the tree trunk part. And then I'll go back and erase my Frankenstein lines because I'm going to want these letters to be nice and sharp. I can erase my guidelines right now too because I'm not going to need those anymore either. Oops, I missed one. There we go. Now this part is going to be tricky because you have to sort of see in your imagination. I'm going to draw, let's start with the letter T, okay? With the letter T, I'm going to draw another T right behind it and a little bit up to the northeast. A little bit up this way. So here comes another letter T. And they're going to overlap each other. And sometimes it's hard to see. I'm going to make this one nice and dark so you can see this one. So that's my first T, nice and dark. And the second T, I'm drawing just a little bit up and to the side. So here's T number 1, and this is T number 2. And then I've decided that T number 1, the first one that I did, is not made of glass, and I can't see through it. So I'm going to erase these because they are overlapping. And I'm left with T number 2 in the back like that. I'm going to color T number 2 in solid. So it looks like T number 1 is casting a shadow on the wall of itself, right? There's its shadow. Like it was standing right, almost right up against the wall. And that is technically called a drop shadow. Sometimes people refer to this as a drop shadow. Technically, that's a drop shadow because it really is a shadow. Do you think we can do the letter H? Let's try this. You ready? Let's make H number 1 nice and strong. Now we're going to draw H number 2 a little bit behind it. And it's tricky to do. Oops, I already blew it. No, that's not right. That's right. Yeah, it can be tricky to see what you're doing. Okay, can you see my second H right here? Here it is. H number 2. There's my 2 H's. It's a real mind bender. And then I'm going to go ahead because I decided that H number 1 is not made of glass. I don't want it to be see-through. I'm going to color in my H number 2, what I can see of it, because remember it's being overlapped. And it looks like the H is casting a shadow on the wall behind it. Letter E is going to be a little trickier. That's why I like doing letter T first, right? Let's see if we can do letter E. So we've got 2 E's now. I decided I don't want E number 1 to be, let me make E number 1 darker so we can see it. Here's E number 1. Here's E number 1, nice and dark, so we can keep track of which lines are whose. There's E number 1, and you can see E number 2 is up a little bit into the northeast. Right? Now I've decided E number 1 does not want to be made of glass, so I'm going to down here and erase everything that's overlapping. And then I'm ready to color in E number 2, nice and dark. There are other shadow tricks you can play too about, shadows that look like they're peeling off, or shadows that are laying on the ground nice and bright, or lots of shadow tricks you can play. And there we go. You can see this looks different from this, right? And they're both sometimes referred to as drop shadow. So when you're working as a graphic designer, make sure people understand what you're talking about. Do you want this kind of drop shadow, or are you talking about this as a drop shadow? What do you mean? Just so that everybody knows which one you mean. It's confusing terms. All right, last little trick with letters today. Find yourself a clean piece of paper. Go ahead and make yourself some really big kindergarten lines this time. Big ones. This one is the trickiest one of all. We're going to make it look like these letters are carved in stone. So make them really big and strong letters. We're going to do the again one more time. Maybe you've already figured out how to do it without doing it the Frankenstein way. Oops, make sure they stay big. Mine are getting too skinny. Make sure these are big, strong letters, because we need a lot of space to do this next trick. And this one is certainly easier to do on these big straight letters. It's a lot harder to do on S's and O's. You have to practice a whole bunch to figure out how to make it work. All right, once you're here, you can get rid of your kindergarten lines. You don't need them anymore. Okay. I'll give you a minute to catch up. Even if you haven't gotten this far, that's okay. We're going to start with letter T first, so that gives you a little bit of time. I need a new pencil. My pencil is not sharp anymore. Hold on while I find a new one. Here we go. Ah, there we go. Okay. Now this is going to involve shading and shadows, so we're going to be working carefully to... There we go. Now we're in focus. We're going to add shading. We're super careful to this next project we're about to do. So in each of these, now the letter T has got 3 ends. 1, 2, 3. It's got 3 ends. On each of these ends, we're going to draw a little triangle shape like this. 1, 2, 3. And from the pointy part of these triangles, we're going to connect them up by drawing a bunch of straight lines. And this letter also has these corners right here. We're going to connect those there and there. Now it's starting to look a little bit like it's carved in stone, right? You'll see what happens when we add shading to this. So just to review, we've got triangles in each of our ends. And then from the pointy part of those triangles, we're going to draw lines right up the middle of our letter strokes till they intersect. And in the letter T, we're going to have these extra 2 lines right here because they're right here at these elbows, these bendy parts in our letter. Now we're going to add a little bit of shading here, just a little bit. We're going to make this one medium dark. And we're going to make this one medium dark. And this one. So 1, 2, 3 are medium dark. Oh, number 4. Sorry, I blew it. Number 4. And these ones are just going to be toned lightly. So you see what it looks like it's made carved in stone? Let's do this letter H, same thing. Do you remember how we started? We put triangles in each of the ends of the letter strokes. 1, 2, I think it'll be 4 on this one. 3, 4. And from the very tips of each of these triangles, we're going to connect those. Make one that goes across the middle. Now the same thing that happened in the letter T, where we had these little extra lines coming to where the letters make a right angle. Look, that happens here too. So let's make these ones here 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. All right, here comes the time for darkness. Darkness here. Darkness here. Darkness here. Darkness here. And darkness underneath here. So what we're doing is adding darkness to the left of each letter stroke and the bottoms. And these are the tops and the right, so we'll leave those big. And then you can tone the rest of it, just so it's not white. Clean up your smudges. Can you do the last letter without me? I wonder. Okay, same rules. Focus up, camera. On camera. Focus up. Oh, come on, you silly camera. That's better. There we go. All right, same thing. We're going to make triangles at the end of all our letter strokes. And there are only 3 here, because these really aren't ends. You'll see why in a second. And then from here, and then again, these corners, right? We have these little diagonal lines coming wherever our letter makes a right angle. That's going to be here, and here, and here, and here. And there are 2 more. Here and there. Now, we're going to add darkness to the left-hand side. Well, here's a left right here. And the underneath. Here's an underneath. And here's an underneath. And here's an underneath. Add your toning. Clean up your smudges. And there we go. Now you can play the same game. Let me just tell you one little quick thing about it. There's the top or the bottom, and there is the lefts or the rights. You have to pick top or bottom where you're going to add your darkness. We chose bottom. You have to choose your left or your rights where you add darkness. We chose left. But you can mix these up. You can do the top and the right. You can do the top and the left. But you have to decide one, either top or bottom. Either one's good. And either left or right, either one's good. So you can change the direction that your light is coming from. In this case, the light's coming from this way because we chose the left-hand side is where the darkness is, and the underneath is where the darkness is. But again, you can mix it up because you're the artist. You decide top or bottom, left or right. You pick which one you want to do. All right, so that's today's lesson in lettering. I hope you practice these alphabet letters. Please try and do your own name in these letters. If you have a super long name, it's okay to use your nickname, right? Or something short. Or you can just do the again and practice by mixing up these right here. Please post your artwork on the homework so that I can see what you did while I was gone. And I'll see you when I get back. Bye.